right. Well, we're here today with Rick Demulling joining us uh, on the afternoon broadcast. Chris Price with Keller Williams in the Indy Property Source. I'm excited to have Rick on today and just kind of talk to him about some of the things that he's got going on right now. Specifically today, he was out doing some good things. So thought that was cool to hear about with you and your kids. Sounds like running errands for some people. Is that what you're out doing today?
Yeah, so my wife's a part of the organization called Heart Change, and it is an awesome, awesome organization down to in the area where we're going to be moving to down in Brookside. And what it is, it's for women that don't really know where to turn. So obviously, they want to introduce them to Jesus and talk to them about the gospel. And so it's a great organization, and what they're doing is mainly it's single women. And I mean, some of these women, literally, we dropped off. I mean, with 5 children, and they're doing it by themselves. So a great lady, Cindy Palmer, who's heading up Heart Change, she set it up to where we got a bunch of food donations, and then we dropped off food for all the kiddos and the moms. Can you close that?
Well, that's great.
Hang on for one. I am so sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So for those of you guys that a lot of you guys know Rick, he's a former Indianapolis Colt, was a lineman, played with Peyton Manning, and had a lot of great successes here in Indy, and played. I believe you were at Tampa Bay as well.
No, Detroit for 2 years after here, and then a cleanup year in DC. So,
okay.
Redskins.
And had a pretty cool write up last year that kind of spurred our conversation today. That talked about you as your role in coaching at Traders Point, and how you transition some of your life skills and your football skills and pouring into some of those kids. And then maybe after we talk a little bit about that, maybe we'll talk about that journey to Brookside Park as well.
Yeah, I was blessed to one of my really good friends, Dylan Gandy, who played for the Colts for a handful of years and up in Detroit as well. He got me with Traders Point Christian Academy, and our kids were going there for a couple of years before that. And he said, "Hey, I'm interviewing to become the offensive coordinator. Would love it if you became the offensive line coach." I hadn't thought about coaching. I mean, I coached for a quick second at Brownsburg, which was awesome. But once I started having children, I was like, if I want to turn coaching into a career, I can't do that. I've seen the lives of coaches, and it is demanding, and it puts a lot of stress on the spouse, and the kids are never home. And I was like, no, I've seen that, and I want to be a dad that's home. So I stepped out of coaching, and then my buddy pulled me back in, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to stay at the high school level. It's less hours. You don't have to go recruit. And so I started coaching there for 3 years, and it was an amazing experience. You hear a lot about like, oh, it's great, you get to pour into these kids' lives, but I mean, I got more out of it than the kids did. It was amazing. I mean, I forgot how much fun football was, and how goofy, teenage boys can be. So it was really fun, kind of after work, going to practice and just being a goofball. There's a special bond, as playing football yourself. Just there's a bond when you play football or sports in general with the people that you're going through it with, and I really bonded with those boys. And this year I'm stepping back and not doing it again, so I can be home. I was putting a lot of stress on my wife, and that write up really started talking about what my wife and I are doing. We're bringing our kids. So we live in Brownsburg, love it. We live on 7.5 acres. We kind of thought this was our forever home. This is where we wanted to be. And then God just really started tugging on my heart. And I mentioned the lady, Cindy Palmer, earlier. She had a discussion with my wife, and the next thing you know, we're moving to Brookside. So we decided like that's where God's calling us to be, and that's where we can do the most good and just be a good neighbor. We're not saviors. We know we can't be, but we just want to introduce people to who the Savior is, and that's Jesus, obviously. So that's kind of what we've been doing. It's been a long haul. We bought a vacant lot, a duplex, and another vacant lot, all in concession with each other. So we have some pretty good area. We're going to do like a garden. We're going to have bees. We're going to have chickens down there. And then on the other side, a little play area. We bought all this about a year ago, the free lot, or the 2 lots in the house and the duplex, and turned it into a single family. And that's just been eye-opening on what it takes to turn. I've done some flips, but I haven't turned like a multifamily into a single family, and that has just been crazy. And obviously, with all that's going on with COVID, and that's drawn a lot of people away from the workforce. So it's been kind of we're at a standstill pretty much right now. But totally a God thing, had it all lined up, and yeah, we're excited to get down there. But we're pretty happy where we're at right now with not being able to leave at all with COVID, to send our kids out to 7.5 acres and run around. We couldn't do if we were downtown already. So
Yeah,
we're
absolutely.
looking forward.
So there's moving from a somewhat of a private location in Brownsburg to an urban neighborhood like Brookside that's experiencing some revitalization, but has some challenges too. What do you hope to do by placing your family there, by being a neighbor, by being a homeowner in that neighborhood? What do you hope that does, and some of your friends and families that are moving there as well?
I think I kind of touched on it earlier, is just be a good neighbor, just to show that God is working, and that, we're moving down here for a reason. It's just, we want not only, I brought it up before, like just with the kids, coaching the kids, I got more out of it than they did. The same thing is going to happen when we move down there. We're not going to be able to change anything, but I know my family, my kids, my wife and I, we're going to see life differently. We're so secluded, and we keep everything's at an arm's distance away right now in our 7.5 acres. Now we're not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to invite people in, which we love, but we also really enjoyed the security and peacefulness of just being, going out, looking at the pond, looking at the sunrise and sunsets. And, but I think it's just hopefully bringing the gospel down there. It's already starting to get down there. And with the people that are coming from College Park, the Palmers, the Shaws, we got the Swinders, the Chief. There's just a lot of people going down there, and we just feel like that's where God is calling us to be. And obviously, we questioned that with all that's going on right now. We're like, we wanted to be in there at the end of this month, and there's no way that's going to happen now. So we're praying through that, like, God, is that really what you want? And seeking wisdom in that. And we still feel like God wants us there. It's just like, you know what? It's just putting us on pause a little bit. Still trying to we can take our time in getting the stuff done down at the house. But we're just looking forward to be good neighbors down there and having some fun, and I guess giving our kids exposure to something different than upper middle class white people. To be honest with you, in the area that we live, that's all that we see. And that's all that we interact with. And we want our kids, we know that that's not life. That's not how God's kingdom is. And when you go to heaven, that's not what it's going to look like. So we wanted them to experience what we feel like God has put us on this earth for.
Yeah, that faith journey that you've described is pretty awesome. And just to hear you over the past year, where it's taken you and your family, and just placing that faith in God and moving forward into Brookside, and to know that, just like when you were coaching, that you will receive as much as you're giving out, and maybe more so. And that's really cool to hear. And on a side note, did you know that Brookside Park has a gigantic frisbee golf course in the?
I did a little bit of fall action. So I've seen that, and I have played that. I'm from Washington, so like hippie central, right? And so that was really big, that and hacky sack. And so I slang a few discs in my day, and looking forward to kind of teaching my kid. My kid loves to throw anything. My son, he throws rocks all day long. So I'm going to hopefully get him going so we can go do some frisbee golf.
Yeah. So, Rick, going back to the coaching experience, what's maybe something going into that? I know you mentioned that you went into it with the perspective of being a player, but then you took on the I guess perspective of being a coach, and to see what what it is that a coach receives from coaching. Uh, Tell me a little bit about that in your time coaching, and how that different perspective, what maybe you got out of it that you didn't get out of it, of the game from being a player.
Oh man, I that's a good question, and I wish that I had this mindset and the way that I looked at the game when I played. I mean, the strategy involved. I was just, a meathead. Tell me what to do, and I'll go do it. I wasn't in the mindset of just, hey, let me think through this. I want to learn. Here, I mean, I'm studying film in a totally different way. What are their weaknesses? How can we exploit that? What are our weaknesses, and how can we defend against that? And so, if I wish I would have had that mindset when I was playing, because it would have. I would have watched film differently. I would have prepared my body and my mind totally differently. And I got a respect out of it for my former coaches. I loved all my former coaches. There hasn't been but maybe two or three that I didn't get along with. You always run into people you just don't jive well with, but I respect them a lot more. I mean, especially like my high school coaches. They were there for like 10 to 20 years. I mean, some of them there for even 30 coaching, and like the longevity of that and the hours and the true love that they put into all of us. I've reached out to a couple of my coaches and said thank you, and some of them have passed, and that kind of breaks my heart that I wasn't able to really express to them my gratitude for putting in all that time and effort. Because I mean, it is a true labor of love, and a sacrifice. Really, they had families, and they were away from their families for a lot of time to benefit me and other guys like me, other kids like me.
Yeah, the expression, I'll probably butcher it, but that youth is lost on the youth, or something along those lines. I think being a player,
Yep.
it almost would be nice to have been able to be a coach before you're a player to understand,
Right.
all of that goes into the preparation and the time away, and so that's really cool that you were able to go back to some of those coaches and really pay it back to them. That's good stuff.
Trying to. That's what we got. That's what we got to do is pay it forward every day. Just find a way to thank the people that's helped you. You can't get to wherever if you've rised up in any kind of work or athletics, you never get there alone. I mean, That's what people want to do it themselves, but they just can't.
Yeah. So, Rick, you and I met through real estate here at Keller Williams, and I know you to be a business person, so you've got several businesses here locally. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and let you kind of introduce your businesses and tell the folks kind of what you do there, and then how it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic that we're going through right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. First, I got into real estate through Tucker, talked to Tucker, and then I thought hey, I really like real estate. It's fun. It's enjoyable to go do all that stuff. Then I started getting real tired of chasing that all around the city for somebody who didn't want to buy a house or maybe wouldn't, And so I got introduced to investment real estate, and I fell in love with that, and it just took off. So I ended up buying up to 10 in my portfolio. We're kind of selling some off so we can invest in the area we're going to be living downtown. But that kind of led me to insurance. The guy that I had doing my insurance is actually a good buddy of mine. So I started talking to him like, hey, I'm spending this big chunk of money on insurance. How can I mitigate that? What can we do? What about we start our own? And he was like, what are you talking about? And then next thing you know, we did. So in 2016, we opened up Demulling and Slama Insurance. We're actually a partner with Smith, Story and Smith up in Rochester, and they've been a great partner, really great. They have a lot of experience, so they were help guiding us, and they're still guiding us. And so Brett Slama and I started that up, and we've been kind of rolling with that. And oddly enough, with COVID, the issues we've been coming across haven't really affect insurance a lot in regards to trying to call people. The issue is trying to figure out how are we going to best insulate and risk management from here on out with that in it, what language you have to use. And then obviously we're trying to help our current clients, like you've had to stop business. How can we get you, some money? Because obviously there's business interruption insurance. But like any good big company, all the markets or all the carriers are trying to fight that. because it was a shutdown by the government, out of their control, that type of thing. So right now, for all the business guys out there that have business interruption, they're waiting on from what I understand, a Supreme Court ruling if the insurance companies will be on the hook or liable for that. So that's going to be a pretty big decision, because it could bankrupt a lot of carriers if they're having to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars for each company that's been out of business. So, but yeah, we're kind of pushing forward, doing still writing policies and business side, and we're also doing a decent amount of homeowners and auto. So yeah, that's kind of, I'm still learning the business, but I like it for a big reason is residual income. Same reason why I really fell in love with real estate in that regard. So it's something like, if I build up a big enough book of business, I don't want to go to work that day. I don't have to go to work that day. The check is still going to come in. I still get paid. Obviously, you want to keep grinding and grinding and grinding and grow that book as big as you can. But I think for any business, man, the passive income is kind of king, right? You know, you just get that money that comes in without having to, quote unquote, work for it. But you and I know that that's not quite true. You're always working. You're always kind of grinding away for that passive income. So, but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. We're rolling with that. We're up in Carmel. We have an office up there, and I'm kind of trying to get one downtown to where I'm living. So I'll office out of downtown in the Brookside area, hopefully, and kind of do our thing there. I'm hoping to hopefully employ some people down in the area, looking to get out of construction or something, that all the jobs that they probably have to do, and hopefully they can get in some jobs that can build some wealth for them in a future.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of opportunity there. And I know you to be a business person that is focused on the customer experience as well. So if we're talking to somebody that's at home and they're in quarantine right now, and they have some time, and or maybe they've been furloughed, or they've lost their job or their income, and they need to really dive into their personal expenses or their business expenses and see where they can gain a few extra dollars back. Seems like now would be a great time to go and get additional opinions on their insurance policies. Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got time. That's the biggest hang up typically, is like, I don't have time to go look for my policy and walk through that. Now we got nothing but time. So just for somebody who's looking to kind of, I don't want to say pinch some pennies, but if you can save a couple bucks, insurance is a great way to start. We're a brokerage, so we are able to shop out to a bunch of different carriers, as opposed to like a State Farm, who typically they have some good rates in certain areas. But obviously, if you keep seeing it climb, it might be a great time now to have somebody take a look at it, because you can very well not only just cost savings, but there's been a lot of times we've seen it where the insured is underinsured. So if something happened to the roof, or they're underinsured, they're not going to get what they think they're going to get out of it. And so, easy enough. We can just jump on DemullingSlama.com and fill out a questionnaire. We'll get a hold of you and go from there. It's pretty simple. We just need some pretty basic information, your current policies declaration page, and then some other pertinent information. We can get a quote turned around in a matter of a couple days, if not a couple hours. So.
Yeah, that's great advice. And speaking of advice, we're uncertain with what's going to happen with housing, right? And being
say the word unprecedented. That's the big buzzword, unprecedented.
Yeah, unprecedented time. Nobody has a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen with real estate pricing. But let's say there's down the road, maybe there's a dip in pricing. What's your advice to someone that's looking to get into investing in real estate like you did a few years ago, and maybe achieve some financial goals there?
Yeah, I think now is a great time to learn. It may not be the best time to buy, Rick, right now, because as you know, like, it hasn't really dipped a lot. I mean, we're still, a month into this? I mean, it's going to take a while, and there's still people trying to buy, and there's really not a lot on the market. So since you have time on your hands, pick up that book, do that podcast. The one that really got me going was Hold. So that was a great book by Linda McKissick, and that it spells out everything. And then, the $1 Million Investor and all those from Gary Keller was awesome. And it stoked my fire to get that going. I saw why it worked. And then when I finally did it, I knew, oh, this is a no-brainer. It's a great way to build wealth. So it's all about knowledge. In there, it talks about fear, a lot about fear. Like success is on the other side of fear. There's so many people just in life, not just business or even real estate, they get caught up so much in fear. But you break through that fear and have faith in God to know that even if it goes wrong, it's going to work out okay, because it does. God has your best interest in mind. And so you break through that fear barrier. I mean, it's amazing what can happen. So get the education. Now's the time to do it. Read up, study up. And then when it does dip, when it does decline and it becomes a buyer's market, then you'll have the confidence to go do it. But if you wait until it dips or until it corrects itself, then you're going to be behind everybody else, because there are a lot of people that's been doing this for years that are just waiting to pounce on it. So, I mean, don't wait until the market corrects and be like, oh, this could be a good idea. Learn it now. Then even if it doesn't correct, you have another skill set.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it really is, a time where none of us really want to be trapped inside, but whatever industry we're in, whatever hobbies we're in right now, we're able to really to dive in and learn. And we're also, I feel like that this reset that's been happening globally is we get to see where our priorities are at. So not just, work, but family life, spiritually, what is truly important to us from a financial standpoint. So I think what this has really allowed us to do, and know, not making light of it in any way to the people affected by it, but for those of us that are in quarantine and just kind of, trying to be responsible and waiting this out, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of self-discovery, I think, that goes on, during this time.
Yeah, definitely don't waste it, right? I mean, it's one of those things that you said, like, there's a lot of things. We've spent a lot of time with our kids. I mean, a lot. And it has been fantastic.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, I feel bad for my kids. I've been blessed to go out and be able to, safely go out and, still see people at a distance and do some work. But I mean, my wife and my kids have been home. She's been schooling the kids, and, it's funny. I come home, she's like, oh, a conversation with a grown up. It's amazing. And then, like, I come home, she's like, I'm done for today. You take them. I'm going to go in the back. I'm like, absolutely. But yeah, taking this time to not to sulk. There are people struggling right now greatly, and first and foremost, we want to help them out. Because this is one of those things that the people that can need to step up and help just people around you. If you just turn a blind eye and just sit in your house and be like, I'm going to catch up on every next Netflix show, then you've wasted this opportunity. I mean, there's an opportunity in everything. No matter, God creates everything for good. I mean, there are some people that are hurting and you probably can't see the good in it, but it's there somewhere, right? And so I think, don't waste it. Get learned on things that you want to learn about. If it's you thinking about going back to school, get online and go do some research on it. And we have all this new free time. Use it wisely. Consider it a gift and not like a punishment. I have to go sit in my house all day and do that new project around your house that you've been wanting to do. And I mean, you just sit there and sulk in it, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, because I don't feel like we're getting out of this anytime. I don't personally think we're getting out of it anytime soon. I've heard some leveling off discussions in regards to it, but it's kind of and I tell people, I'm like, it's exciting times, but not like, ooh, yay, exciting, but it's very exciting. I've never lived through anything like this. I've never experienced a lockdown and, oh my goodness, what is this going to look like? I literally just, my kids and I and my wife, we pray for the leaders of this country, for the leaders of the world, because they're being faced with a lot right now. Yeah. And I know a lot of people are giving Trump a hard time, but let's band together. He's our president right now, and he's the only person that can make these decisions. Let's pray for that man to make the right decision, whatever that is. Because I know I don't have the answer. We don't have a ball that we talked about, the foreseeable future. We just pray that the right decisions are brought to him and that he makes the right decisions, and across the world that they are making the right decisions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we end up here, I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't try to prod some locker room stories out of you. So I went to a YMCA event, and Bill Brooks was there, and he was talking about
Really?
how one of his first games he got his pants pulled down in front of the NFL crowd, and he didn't know it happened. And so I thought I'd try to pull one of those stories out of there for you if you had anything that you wanted to share with
I
us.
got a couple. One of my favorite ones. So Jeff Saturday, one of my favorite teammates I ever played. He was instrumental in bringing me to Christ. I was not always a follower of Christ. I always believed that one day I would. And but we're sitting there. I used to throw up in high school and college. Every game, I'd get nervous and I'd throw up. I'm like, all right, now I can go play. And so I'm sitting there, first preseason game. We're playing the Seahawks, which my childhood favorite team are the Seahawks. So I'm super more excited. First NFL game, and so I start, and I end up throwing up. And then Saturday comes like, now listen, don't you ever do that again. So the next day or the next game, I started listening to Jewel to calm me down. Like, oh, I don't know why, Pieces of You calmed me down. But it was Jewel that I would listen to calm me down so I would not throw up before a game. So that was my introduction to the NFL and my very first game. So I'll never forget that.
Yeah, probably not a lot of Jewel tracks on other players around the league at that time.
I definitely had to listen to headsets because you get the sideways look a lot if you start blaring Jewel before a game. And there are some people that love to get hyped but don't throw up. But the more hyped you get, the more throw uppy I would get.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So yeah, I would say I got some other ones, but I don't. That was a different part of my life, so I don't know if I want to be sharing those.
Okay, well, that's a good one. Well, Rick, I mean, you certainly had a lot to share today. I think it's fun to connect and do it online, especially at this time when you're hear from someone like you that's had a great background here locally and continues to inspire the community through your business and through your work, through your outreach and through your family. A man of God that is out there and living it. And I know we certainly appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you being on with me today. And
Absolutely.
I look forward to talking to you soon.
Absolutely. No, we're just all human trying to do the best we can each and every day. I sin every single day and ask for forgiveness. So.
Yep. Well, thanks, Rick. We'll talk to you here soon.
Absolutely. Have a blessed one.
All right.